Hello, everybody, and welcome to this ThingLink webinar where we're focusing on higher education. It's my absolute pleasure to say that we are going to be joined by a ThingLinker and ThingLink friend, Dr Abhilasha Jones, and she's going to be showing you some of the fantastic ways that she's found to engage her audiences, her learners, by using interactive tools such as ThingLink. So we have about an hour tops. We might finish a bit earlier, we might finish a little bit later, but we would absolutely love you to ask questions. So please do leave your questions in the chat and we'll do our best to answer them. So without further ado, I'm delighted to welcome Dr. Abhilasha Jones. Hello, Abby, how are you?
Oh, I'm fine. Thank you, Louise. Thanks for having me.
Oh, we're absolutely delighted. You know, we just love the work that you're doing, and everyone who sees it just thinks that, you know, this is actually, you know, revolutionizing the way that the learning is developing, particularly not just because of lockdown, but because it needs to happen. But before you start, I really just want to make sure that everybody knows your job titles, because you have two, not one, but two, but you are actually the clinical lead for interprofessional education.
Yes.
And also that is EIPOM, which is you are the evidence-informed practice of medicine lead for the School of Medicine. Did I get it right?
Yes. Yeah. At the University of Central Lancashire, absolutely. And then in my spare time, I do some GPing and, you know, mum of two and usual things, just trying to fill, you know, all my time, because who needs sleep?
Exactly. So just to kick us off, I'm just going to put in a little bit of context here. So we pulled this webinar together, which is about fend off digital fatigue. And we really wanted to showcase all of the ways in which you have been able to try and overcome some pretty tricky kind of situations and some complex situations, given the fact that you're covering some quite thorny issues and thorny subjects with a whole range of professionals. But I do have some nice slides here just to start us off. And I'm just going to make my screen large so that everyone can see these. So for those of you who are joining us, and we do recognise that some of you might have used ThingLink before, some of you have not used ThingLink before, but just to give you an overview of what ThingLink actually is. So ThingLink is a way for you to take your images, your videos, your 360 images or videos, or even 3D models, that's new, and you can make them interactive with clickable hotspots. And those clickable hotspots can be customized so that you can add in lots of different types of tags. And one thing that I really wanted to show you was some examples in action of ThingLink, but I don't want to do that before Abby shows you hers, because they are just absolutely phenomenal. So I'm just going to hand back over to Abby now, and I'm just going to ask you if you could share your screen, and then I'll pop your screen in and then over to you to show some of those brilliant examples, and then we'll take some questions.
Right, so I think that's working.
Brilliant. Yes, that is working. So there we have your, there we go. Oh, there we go. And I'll just remove myself.
So I thought I'd start off with just quickly showcasing one that we've talked about before, haven't we, Louise, which actually set off ThingLink for me in the beginning. And this was one of those things that came about because of COVID. And actually, I can be thankful for COVID for quite a few things. And one of them was bringing me ThingLink. And we were trying to create an MDT simulation. So an MDT stands for a multidisciplinary team. And we wanted lots of different students from lots of different areas, like pharmacy and physiotherapy, occupational therapy, medicine, all of them to come together so that they can work on a patient case and talk to each other about it. And then COVID hit, and then we're like, oh, well, we can't do this. But then someone was like, well, we could do it online. And we agreed. And we're like, okay, we'll give that a go. And then I thought, well, how can I give them this information about this patient? How could I kind of portray that in a good way? And one of my colleagues, Emma Gillespie, she's awesome, and she said, "Have you seen ThingLink?" And I was like, "No." And she was like, "Oh, well, you can take an image and you could just like embed some of the patient information in there. You could have the GP record, or you could have have some observations." And I saw a thing and I thought, goodness me, this is it. This is what's going to make this scenario so much better. And what I started was looking for an image. I was trying to find an image that would show a paramedic and a patient. Now, our patient was of Afro-Caribbean origin, because we wanted it kind of based around COVID, and actually that she had an increased risk. But right in the middle of like Black Lives Matter, we realized that, we couldn't believe it. We couldn't find an image of a woman who was Black with a paramedic. Couldn't find one. And I was like, right, well, but one thing that ThingLink allows me, I can make any image. So we took this picture and we took it as a 360 because I wanted them to have that immersive feeling that they could explore and look around and use their powers of observation. So we're redoing this this year with our students again. And here I can embed and I can put things like the patient record that they can look at. We have audio where they've got a telephone call from the GP. And a paramedic. We can got observations of the patient, so they can have a look around. And there's lots of other things that I've added that are subtle, so that haven't got a tag. So, for example, that this patient seems to be sleeping on the sofa, that she's got a biscuit tin that doesn't have any biscuits in, that she has a walker over here, right over the other side, that's got sort of holding a newspaper and a scarf. So she's obviously not using her mobility aids. And it allows the students to kind of think further and more about this case, and about what might be happening to this patient in their home, especially during COVID times. So we've loved this, and ThingLink just and our students really enjoyed it. They loved using this as a method. It was so much better than just getting a PDF or a Word document with some information on. It was a much more interactive event, and we're keeping it and we're carrying on and we're doing it this academic year. Even though we can do it face to face, we're staying online because actually it gives us a much more flexible working environment. I think. Look, Louise, shall I go and have a chat? Shall I talk about some of these online escape rooms?
Yeah, that's just perfect. What I love about that is that you're saying that you started doing these because you had to do them remotely, but you've just carried on using them.
Absolutely, because we've shown that actually it works well, and actually now we can have a choice between what works best. And actually this works best, so we're keeping it. And the flexibility of being able to change the inputs, change the embedded content, so we can keep the image and recycle it over and over again. So it's not lost for one session. Actually, we can take this and put it and give it to lots of different students of lots of different topics, and we could even follow this case later on as they're going through their healthcare journey.
And it's the little clues that make all the difference, isn't it? It's like people being able to like explore and just like live and breathe being in that room with that lady, which is just so in context. And I guess the fact that you've all got masks on, the fact that it's bang up to date for today just makes it so much more relevant as well. And you can do that, of course, and you can change it once you've shared it with everybody as well, can't you, if you need to?
Absolutely, this once you've created this content, it's shareable across the web for other people to have a go and use that image in something that they want to do.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Before we move on to that wonderful next example, we've got a couple of questions that have been asked. So what I'm going to first of all is just say a big hello to Jean Edwards, who's working at the University of Northampton with students who are teaching assistants. Jean, welcome. What I'll also do is be showing you some other ways in which you can use ThingLink in schools, which actually then your students could learn about, and they actually might then like to have a go. And we've also got a question from Hilary Phillips, who said, how do different health professionals learn from this?
Okay, so the scenario is based on this case regarding the hot topic of frailty. So frailty is a medical condition that happens to lots of patients. Often they are elderly, but it doesn't have to be. And all of our sort of healthcare disciplines, we have like 9 who are coming onto this event now, will be dealing with patients who suffer with frailty. And part of their educational needs is understanding how we manage patients with frailty in a multidisciplinary approach. So actually, I, as a GP, will need to say, maybe speak to the district nurses about something, or I need to maybe get information from the paramedic, or maybe speak to the pharmacist about this, the medication that she's on that might be causing some of the symptoms she's experiencing. So the students get together with this whole case, and they sit on in Microsoft Teams within a little mini team, about 10 to 12 students. And they work through the information to create a joint management plan, collating information that they all have and imparting the knowledge, the specialist knowledge that they're bringing to the group. So the students are not only being able to share information that they're getting, but they're able to see what those professional roles will be doing in real life and practice that in a safe space. Because often with multidisciplinary team working, it's difficult to find a safe place to do that. You're often with a real patient in real life, and you've got you're sort of like qualified people doing their roles, and as a student it's quite difficult to get in there to take part and give your opinion, because you might feel, well, that might not be right and I don't want to be saying the wrong thing. While this is somewhere that we're giving them, we're empowering them to do it for themselves, but it's a safe space to do it in.
That's brilliant. Thanks ever so much. Hopefully, Hilary, that answers your question, but do keep the questions coming. And I'm delighted that we've actually got someone joining us from Italy who's a PhD student, and her research focuses on students with additional support needs, and she uses immersive environments like ThingLink, and we'll be showing you Immersive Reader as well and some of the tags. I'm just going to share my screen with you now and just show you some of the kind of basics of ThingLink, because we've dived into what it looks like. So if I show people a little bit about how it works, that might be helpful then before we move on to the outstanding breakout rooms. So I'm just going to share my screen now and pop that in. Okay, here we go. So just to give you a few little bit more understanding of ThingLink and how it all works, I just wanted to show you that we've got this wonderful example that Abby's shown us, where it's kind of like an immersive experience using 360, but there are other benefits to using ThingLink as well. You can track your engagement on those learning materials as well. So Abby could see exactly how many people had engaged with it, which hotspots were clicked, which hotspots were clicked in different orders, which gives you learning metrics, which is really, really useful. But we're finding that people are using ThingLink for infographics and making them interactive, maps, virtual tours, and that's just perfect for, as we've mentioned, blended, hybrid lending, flexible learning, self-paced online learning, and I'm sure I could flow a few other acronyms in there if I wanted to. Flexi hybrid, I think, is the new remote learning.
Hybrid, I like that one. I mean,
yeah, high flex.
Infographics are my new favorite thing. I love them. It's a great way of putting information all in one space, in one image, so that students aren't getting lost. So, I mean, I just recently created our students go on placement, and they had lots of different placements with lots of different information. And I basically just took a Google map and drop loads of pins where the placements are, but then I can link in the websites of the placements, their Twitter feed, their Facebook, whatever information about their supervisors. It's all in one place, and it's so much easier to use than suddenly they're trawling through like loads of PDFs here, there, and everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. And we've just had somebody else saying they say high flex too. So yeah, high flex to you. So if I click on this example here, I'm going to show you, this is Queen's University in Belfast, and this is their marine laboratory. And they've created a virtual tour of the laboratory, which we see a lot. People use these for student orientation, or they might use them for inductions, as well as kind of showing prospective students what the university looks like, to have that feeling of exploring around. But what they're actually doing now is they're actually able to put the learning resources into the virtual tour. So here you can see we've got site 1 that was taken, and the different types of marine life, crustaceans, and all different lovely things there that have been added. So what they've been able to do is to take that kind of virtual tour one stage further by embedding live resources, live experiments, 360 video with environments directly in that tour. So it's kind of taking it one stage further, which I think is just super. And then kind of going back to ThingLink and how it works, we know that people use a whole range of devices, and they might use mobile devices as well. So it's absolutely fantastic to show you that we do have a new mobile app, and that launched this week. And our mobile app previously wasn't that great because you could access ThingLink in the browser. But we've listened to people who want the app to be revised. Maybe they use mobile devices and they can't access the browser. So if you now go to the App Store, whether it's the Apple iOS Store or you go to the Android Play Store, you'll be able to download the ThingLink app. And just as you saw with Queen's University Belfast, what they're able to do is to take the mobile device out on the field, take pictures on the go, upload them directly to ThingLink, and then tag them there and then update a resource. So you could have people who have got that virtual tour of the university, but they're out on the field taking pictures and they can instantly update it. So I think that's just a really nice new feature. So Abby, now that I've given people a little bit more insight into ThingLink and the fact that they can use the new mobile app, I thought it'd be really good. Let's hand back to you, and we can hear a bit more about some of the work that you've been doing.
Yeah, so I thought it would be nice to talk a little bit about our online escape rooms. Coming on from frailty, another one of our problems that occurred was that during COVID, we'd created a sepsis escape room. So a live escape room where they'd go into a room and they had boxes to unlock and they would work together. We'd had medical students and nursing students and physicians associate students escape this escape room. Unfortunately, with COVID, obviously we couldn't have people together, but I really wanted to try and continue our escape rooms because actually they're really good fun. And one of the things, I mean, if you haven't heard of an escape room, it's like a recent sort of entertainment film, and they're all over the place. And I totally recommend, if you haven't done an escape room, go play an escape room. You will learn things about the friends you take or your partners that you would never realize, and actually how you kind of work in a difficult problem. So what you normally find is that a team will get locked in a room and they have to solve these puzzles in a time limit to escape. And so we might think, well, why do that as a learning experience? What's happening there? Well, what we realized when we were doing it, we were trying to think of, we were like, well, our learning outcomes was sepsis. We wanted to learn about how do you look after a sick patient. And I thought this would be a fun way of doing it. What I didn't realize was actually the amount of learning outcomes related to teams and things like, how do you manage your communication skills, your leadership, if you find that you're in a difficult situation, how do you deal with that stress? Can you lateral think a problem? And, when you get really stressed out as a group, what can you do? Are you resilient enough to actually work through it, especially when you're under a lot of stress to get out in a certain amount of time? So we created this escape room, and I wanted to find a way of keeping it online, and ThingLink, as usual, came to the rescue. So if anyone wants to, maybe scan on your mobile app, see if this works, or, grab your mobile or click the link, then please feel free. But I thought I will share, if I stop sharing this, and then I will share the escape room. Here we go. There we go. So this is our escape room. And as you can see, I've used a 360 image again, because it is the room. This is the one they were in before. And I wanted it to keep it as true to life as it was. So this was the normal room they would have. Before, they would have boxes. Instead of boxes, they've got tags. And one of the sort of things that we found were really useful was Flippity. So Flippity embeds quite well. And it says, you know, you can unlock the padlocks to escape the room. And as that comes up, Flippity allows you to have sequential locks. You can have unsequential if you want, but you can click on a padlock to get started, and it gives you a little clue on a 4-digit code, and you have to figure out what to do. We based this around sepsis. So we wanted students to do what they would normally do if a patient was poorly. So they would come in, and we would hope that they would consider the first thing they need to think about is, how do you know this patient is sick? So most times we'd be looking at observations. So I've been able to embed the patient's observation chart, and obviously you can click the bottom ones to make it bigger. Hold on, lost my page now. Where have I gone? Louise, I'm lost. There we are. Sorry. I'll close that down now. There. And they've got observations here as well, which they can then fill and on this chart, on this one here, and they get a code. So actually, if they go then back to the Flippity and put the code in, which now I'm trying to have to think what it is. I think it was 0269. The lock unlocks, and they can go and get on to the next one. And we've been able to embed lots of different things. So say, for example, we've done pictures with oxygen masks, and there's codes here that they have to solve. We have a poem that they have to kind of work through and figure out what that's about. We have ciphers, and we have, I can't get rid of the cipher. And we have transitionals. So they have to solve a code, and that gets them into a different area. And the last one is actually their escape code. So once they've solved everything, they can get out. And what we really noticed with this, because what we were worried about was, in an online environment, can students still gain the learning outcomes we were hoping for? And we had seen loads on kind of team working and that stressful environment. Can it still happen online? And absolutely, actually, it was just as evident. They worked just as well as a team, or sometimes not as well. They struggled, and that struggle actually can show them where they get stuck, like when they are finding something a challenge, how do you problem solve through it? Are you someone who flusters and literally tries to run away, or actually are you someone who works methodically? Or can you use the team around you to help you solve that? And we get to see so many really interesting sort of human factors by using an escape room. And the students love it. They really love it. So this takes about 45 minutes to do. And is really good fun. So Hilary Phillips said, working as a team. Yeah, that's it. So the teams that do well, the teams that finish this quicker, are the ones that work well together. So they're ones that listen to each other, they communicate well, they talk through the problems. So often when they're starting out on this, they're just swirling about and clicking icons left, right, and center, going, what's this, what's that? The ones that kind of sit there and discuss it and go, right, I'm looking at this side of the room, you look at that side of the room, talk to me, tell me what you're finding. They often, the ones that don't do so well, don't do a lot of talking. The ones that do. And if they're talking aloud their problems, they'll often, people will say things that trigger off a thought process that they didn't realize, and actually helps to solve the clue in the first place. And that actually helps in real life. So we then relate this in the debrief, because a lot of, simulation very much is about the debrief afterwards. So playing it is great fun, but picking it apart afterwards. So we spend an hour afterwards talking through our students. How did that go? What did you find? And we say that, well, you know, why do you think it took you as long to solve this problem rather than that problem? And often it's communication, it's not listening. Or someone did say someone, but nobody else picked up on it, and they weren't ones to want to say it again. And we talk about why that's the case. Why did you feel not comfortable to speak it out loud again, even though you felt it was the right thing to do? And we see that on the wards, we see that in health all the time. People knowing that what is happening isn't right, or actually there's a better way forward, but they don't feel confident enough to speak up. And as we talked about before, this is a safe environment to try that out, to practice that, and to realize that actually no one's going to get hurt here, but I'm going to be able to pick up these skills and realize that in the real life scenario, I need to speak up, I need to say what I'm doing, and actually if I'm struggling, I need to get the team out and around me.
That's brilliant. Hopefully that's answered your question, Hilary. Please do keep the questions coming. One of the things that I've had, someone's just pinged me to ask, which was, you know, you embedded things in there, and you mentioned Flippity, which is a third-party tool. And they were asking me, I just got a message via my phone, what other kinds of tools are you using in your escape room? Because you're not just using kind of the normal sort of text and images, are you? You've got a range of things there. And there was also other links that you had embedded in the previous 360 you showed us of the frail lady. So what do you find works well in that embed tag?
I mean, we really like Flippity, but we also really like learning apps, which again is another third party, which is a great way of putting, if you're doing escape rooms as well, puzzles, embedding, you know, puzzles into that. We find that embedding, you know, like video and voice. So on a couple of these, I've done voice recordings that are clues in themselves, or part of that puzzle, or part of the patient case. Where someone is talking through. What else have I put on? I'm trying to think. In this one specifically, we've done lots of different documents. So things like we have an insulin sliding scale, which is something they will come across. We've got patient information. I've also, I mean, one of the nice things that I really like doing is embedding. So if we go over to this side, is it this one? No, that's it. Although that is the sepsis screening tool, so they know what to do. But this actually is linked to our antimicrobial guidance for the local hospital. So embedding actual up-to-date guidance, which will change. So that if the guidance change, this gets automatically updated. So my embed tag is never out of date because it's linked to that.
That's a really great tip. So yeah, you can just continue to change it, and the website's always going to have the freshest kind of version on. And I saw that you'd embedded a drive folder as well, hadn't you? You'd had a OneDrive folder that contains.
Yeah. So with Florence here, so our patient access, the whole record is based within a OneDrive folder. So although, you know, I said I didn't really want you know, PDFs and such, we can still use that, and this record is here, but it gives me one space that if it changes here, it changes for everything else. So it's only one document that ever needs to be sort of edited. I don't have to keep changing my tags or anything like that. It's just over here that will be set off.
Someone's asked me to give the link to the Teachers Monty Python escape room you saw at the end of the last webinar. I will find it, Simon, and I will put it in the chat, or I will send it out via email. But we've seen some fantastic escape rooms coming back. So any more questions, please keep asking. But one of the comments that Simon mentioned here was how they really like the idea of the escape room, but it must need careful planning. So my next question was, you know, how did you go about kind of working out how things were going to knit together? Because yeah, you're right, it does need a little bit of planning.
Well, that leads quite perfectly, because I'll just go back to my slide deck. It was almost like meant to be, wasn't it? So I've got a couple of tips on how you so if you want to create an escape room, I've put a few tips about how I went about making it. Did I manage to share, Louise? What did I do? There we go. So The first bit is to start with your story, your learning outcomes. What do you want your students to kind of get out of it? And that's where we started with sepsis. I thought, you know, it's a hot topic. It's important in our healthcare scenarios. Let's start with that, because there's lots of really good learning points that you have to go through when you're looking after a patient who's that poorly. And then so I started actually on a bit of paper, old-fashioned, although we're losing all these things, bit of paper and a pen. And I kind of split out a start to finish of this kind of story of a patient being poorly. What kind of bits do they need to do? You know, so I know they need to be able to take some observations. They need to be able to put on oxygen. They need to be able to take some blood tests and interpret the results. So I split out those. And then I said, well, can I make that into a bit of a puzzle? And so that's where things like learning apps, and if you've played escape rooms in the past, actually those often it's similar puzzles, there's different content. So it might be a matching thing, it might be simple as a jigsaw that then leads you to, you know, your result. Or what I ended up trying to do was get them to still the clinical decisions that they would be making anyway. I got them to do those, but by doing the right one, they get the right code. So that's how I put them in. But we've done them in lots of different methods. And then I started to say, well, do they need to be linked or are they separate? So I wanted them to do it sequentially. So that's why my locks are sequential, because the order you do this task needs to be in that order. And I wanted to teach them that. So we have them as a sequential, one after another. Well, we've created other escape rooms where actually it doesn't matter. And actually you could split out your tasks where you're all going to go and do different ones and then come back and collate the information you've got to then work out your codes. So then the next one I said is what answers do your puzzle give? You know, do they give codes? Do they give letters? Do they give numbers? You know, are they going to give you a picture that you've got to interpret? What's that puzzle going to do? And then you need to decide where those answers are going to be inputted. So we use Flippity because it's easy. We like the sequential locks. We like the unsequential locks. It's a great way of just putting into something that then gives you a visual, yes, you've solved it kind of thing. And then there you go. You have an escape room. And it's ready to go. Oh no, so Hilary, how we do it is actually they're all on separate computers, because at the time we were in COVID. They're all in their sort of own houses coming online. I used Microsoft Teams. We had channels that they come in on a team meeting link. So they're all coming in on their separate computers. They've got a team meeting link that they join that team, and they're all talking to each other, just as, you know, me and Louise are talking here. But they're then using the link that we've given them. So they've gone onto that ThingLink, and they can have that on a separate screen or a separate device. They've had it on their iPads or something like that. And they're working and talking through it. Some of them are sharing their screen and actually share it and then look around together. So yeah, there's lots of different methods, but yes, usually I have one room, virtual room. They all come, but they're on separate devices. We usually have I normally have about 6 students. I don't probably go over that. I think once you start going more than that, you'll end up getting like clusters where some people will be doing it and the others are kind of on the edge. 5 to 6 works quite nicely.
That's a really nice group size as well, isn't it? So that, yeah, people are having a dialogue at the same time as well. So they'll be reflecting and asking each other questions, which is just fabulous. Thanks, Hilary. Any more questions, then please do let us know. And that brings me on really timely. One more question from Hilary. What specialties are they?
So I purposely, because it was a sepsis escape room, we built this for healthcare professionals who would be working with these type of patients. So we've had medical students, we've had nursing students, we've had physicians associate students. We'll be having paramedics joining us for this one. But as long as the topic is relevant, the learning outcomes are pulled out every time. So we actually made an educational one for some of our staff. And actually they were coming from all sorts of disciplines all over the place, but it was based around education. And actually you could have found the information from anywhere. You didn't particularly needed to be of that discipline to understand what was happening. And actually it was, you know what, Louise, honestly, working with staff, it just cracks me up. The students, not a problem. Staff, honestly, They get so stressed out. I had one bloke who just went, I can't cope, and left. just left. No, none of my students ever gave up, but oh my goodness. And I think that comes down to, as we get older, we're used to feeling more confident. We're used to feeling comfortable in the environments we're in. And when we're put into something that we're unhappy with, suddenly we don't like that, and we don't get to experience that quite often, while our students are used to that all the time. Actually, they're constantly in environments that they feel like they're not ready to be in. And because of that, I think actually it's probably a very good team building exercise for ourselves as we get further on, as we get older, to understand how to deal with that uncertainty when we're in an environment where we don't know what to do and I feel lost and I feel stupid. Actually, let's experience that and work through it, because I think it would make us better team players.
Brilliant. So that's about pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone, but in a quite safe place and safe space in order to do that. No, I think that's brilliant. So I'm just going to, because we could talk all day, as we know, but I do have a rather important announcement to make. And those of you who are watching live, you are going to be the first people to see this in action. And it's kind of like a quiet soft launch of a new, it's not a new feature, it's not a new development of ThingLink, it's a whole new special direction which ThingLink is taking. But before I do that, I'm just going to do a recap, because I've been asked on some of the base media files, because what we saw you using, Abby, was 360. But a couple of people have asked me about what other kinds of base media files that you can use to create your ThingLink. And of course, you can use an image, and that would be a JPEG or a PNG or a GIF file. And that, it's not just an image. It could be like a photo. It could be an image, which is a JPEG of an infographic. But you can also use your 360-degree images, which are JPEGs. And as I've just mentioned about the mobile phone app, remember that a number of mobile phones have got 360 cameras built in now. Mine has. I've got a Google Pixel phone. I think the new iPhones do. If you haven't got that built in, you can use the Google Street View app, and you'll be able to take 360 images with your phone. So, we are the definition of easy and quick in order to build things, if you can just take 360 images with your phone. The other side is that you can use videos, and that you can use 360-degree videos as well. And I just wanted to give you some nice examples here we have of those images that I mentioned. It might even be screenshots. We see a lot. I use screenshots, snipping tool, my favorite thing. But the 360 images, we found that people are using them for those virtual tours, and they also work with headsets as well. So if you want to take your scenarios one step further into an immersive experience using a VR headset, these will work with Class VR or Google Cardboard or HTC's, all of the main headsets. So I know some people are toying around with that truly immersive experience, or you can just use it straight on a PC, which is great, or a laptop, whatever. So this example I wanted to show you, because I thought this was just super cool. This is an example of a 360 video in action. You've got that 2D image of a stable there. This is a stable management course. And you click on that image initially, and it takes you through to a 360 video of the live workings of a livery yard. So you can scroll around and take that immersive experience even one stage further when you're just using, a laptop. Then you go through into another image there, and then you go through into video. The point I'm trying to make is that you can mix and match all of those ThingLinks together in that experience. It doesn't have to be all 360. It doesn't have to be all images. You can play around with those as much as you like. So it must be me coming up to, I'm going to skip through that to show you 3D models as well. You are now able to upload 3D models into your ThingLink as well, and that they are GLB files, and you can upload a file of up to 100 megabytes. Hillary's just saying that pilots have been doing it for ages. We are really pleased to have had a number of pilots working with us to create those kind of 360 simulations. But of course, the other thing is that, you needed some pretty fancy kit and be able to code to produce things like this. But of course, we've kind of democratized it because now anyone can do this with a mobile phone. Interesting story, Hilary. The nice thing about pilots doing this with the immersive reader and the text tags is that pilots have to learn not only English as a language, but they have to learn some pretty technical terms that you can't get through normal translation. So having those tags embedded in the cockpit of a whole range of instruments has been really useful. And I demonstrated some of this at the RAF Cosworth, which is underneath the plane at the time, which is just fantastic. So we do have plans to launch our own ThingLink certified creator course soon. So that's going to be up and running definitely by the end of fall. And this will be a way, that's just a course learner journey there of understanding ThingLink and how you can create all of these things, how you can share them, how you can use your visual design and build accessibility in as well. And we'll keep you posted as we have news of that course. Now, the next thing that I want to show you, and this is the kind of coming to the end of our webinar, but I really wanted to have a conversation with Abby about how this might impact on her work. And I'd love to answer any questions from you if you are excited by this. But ThingLink is going to launch a scenario builder, and that is going to be a simple interface for creating linear or branching scenarios. And these are scenarios where your viewers will be presented with options, and they will be able to answer a question or make a decision based on that choice, and then they'll be able to carry on through that path. And the great thing about this is that it have data built in, so you can see the exact path that that particular learner has taken through. And I'm going to show you an example right soon as I just click through here and show you some of the benefits that you might see of scenario-based learning. So, and Abby, I'm going to come back to you in a second, but what we found is that scenario-based learning is genuinely going to be a disruptor of e-learning in the future, because people have recognized that it's really hard to hold people's attention, but also, we don't live in a knowledge-based kind of learning environment so much anymore. We want people to learn through experience, and we find that that's how people will have a deeper learning outcome. And of course, all the things that you've mentioned, Abby, about safe environments, you can experience risk, there's room for practice and error. You can gamify it, you can reward it, you can put milestones in. And of course, it's relevant and relatable because you're seeing cause and effect. And if you design it right, you'd be able to see the impact of your choices. Now, just before I switch over and show you, Abby, have you got any kind of immediate thoughts about that?
I mean, I love this. I can't wait to have a bit of a play, because for me, it's a branching story would fit so well for things like clinical decision making, because one of the difficult things to try and teach, say, for example, medical students is why go down a certain path in a certain order, and why would we change that? So experienced doctors will constantly change the order that they're doing something, while we're teaching students to do it like, A, B, C, D along, and then they suddenly see them doing it in a different method. And you're like, well, why have you done that? Well, actually, if you can create these branching scenarios where they can practice it and actually repeat it over and over, they may then start to understand how those storylines can be different and why. I think it's really clever.
It is fantastic. So I'm going to show you what this looks like. And I've just dived into another account here. And I want to show you that I have created this very simple information security module. And in order to do this, I just had a series of ThingLinks that I've created. And if I go back to my content, I can show you what some of those look like. So here I had kind of like my first scene, which is like an introductory scene. Okay, so I want that to be the first one, and then I want to link things to it. So how I would do that is I would go into modules, and then I would be able to create a module. So I've got this one that I've already started here, and you can see that I've put that scene first, and then I've clicked this plus button, and this gives me the option to add a further scene. I can add a condition, I can add a branch in there, I can add a goal, or I can actually jump to. So here I have some linear ones to start off with, and I've given them a few points there. And then, of course, I can build out which path that I want those learners to take. So I thought it'd be quite fun. And we've got an example here of fire safety. And you can see all of the different branches there that have been created. And if I go to preview, you'll see this in action. So the first one I've got is a question. So you're on the 5th floor and you hear the fire alarm go. What would you do next? Well, you might instinctively want to call 911, and actually that's not the right answer, because you should only call 911 if you got out of the building. So I didn't get any points for that. I will jump into the elevator and get to the 1st floor faster. Well, actually, you know, there's no way out if you use the elevator. So we've got this elevator there, and you could actually have a video there of the doors opening and fire and all sorts. So I'm going to go back. I will use the stairs to get out of the building. Great, 25 points. And I'm going to proceed on again. And now I'm presented with another image that says fill doors for heat with the back of the hand. If the door is not hot, you know, so it's giving me some advice. And remember that all of these tags have got immersive reader built in as well. So we'll also be able to make sure that we've got text to speech built in, and we can translate that text as well. So you've got scenes, and you're able to use the immersive reader for further text as well. So we just carry on. Is the door hot or not? It's hot. Well, what happens then? And you can see that I'm going to try other doors. So I'm just going to kind of bring this to a close, but I really wanted you to see that we've got all of these options built in, which is a really nice way of being able to build in experiences for our learners. If I just come out of that and I just go back into the module, you'll see here that I've got a statistics button, and this shows me how long people took to actually complete that scenario or that module, what score they got, and what goals they've achieved. So this is in beta at the moment, and we want to invite you, if you've got a scenario at your fingertips and you're looking for a tool to demo, to try out, then we'll happily give you a form for you to sign up, have a go at this, see how you get on. Let us know if there's any changes that you want us to make to this. But as you can see, this is going to be a whole new way of being able to use ThingLink and actually get the learner data associated with it. Abby, your face, you're just like,
I love it. I literally can't wait. I can't wait. And I mean, you know, I really just, it's the simple from the quiz function. But, you know, a lot of the times we don't want them just to regurgitate knowledge that they've kind of, you know, memorized. Actually, I want them to be able to look through something and then transition that knowledge into being able to answer a question. So ThingLink is going to be allowing you to, you know, create that space, create and put those bits of information that they need, and then they assimilate it all to help them answer a question, and then they're on to the next bit. It's so much fun. I mean, I could totally see how this would work. It's going to be great.
Oh, no, that's really helpful. Yeah, we'll make sure that you get a first go as well, so you can build us some of those wonderful examples that you've been doing. So I guess we'll start to bring things to a close. I just got a few more things that people have asked me to do on the webinars before, and I wanted to show you that we've created these. So people love the tips and tricks that we put out, and people create their own and they let us know, or they ask us to come up with things. So I've put together a tips and tricks ThingLink, which has got all of our hot tips in, things that are just going to make life a little bit easier. So, for example, how to use eye-catching headings in your ThingLinks with emojis as well. Maths and chemistry symbols we get asked about. This one's a nice hot tip. Imagine if you want to create a clickable area. You could do that with our Canva integration, and then you could put multiple transparent icons on there. And if you click on the tag here, there's a transparent icon which you can download and upload back into your account page as well. Other tips and tricks using large videos and tags, how you can embed a ThingLink. Lovely comment there from Hilary. Thank you very much. Revolutionizing learning. I think that was scenario builder rather than my hot tips. Numbers from 10. People always ask me, can they have numbers 10 plus? We provide something like 300 icons and you can create your own. So I've created a Canva template, which you can then clone, and then don't forget with Canva you get a free education account that gives you the option to download SVG graphics, so you'll be able to do that and you can customize and play around. And then this is one which is really super handy, and that is something that's just come out, and that is a feature where it check marks your visited scenes, and you can turn that on or off. But imagine if you had your escape room and actually you wanted people to visit all of the tour tags, and that helps them to keep a note of where they've gone, or if they're in a building, for example, like the Queen's University Belfast one I shared. Or you can turn it off if you don't and you want to keep everything completely secret. So that's my tips, and I will put a link in the notes that we send out to everyone that signed up to be part of our webinar today. And it's great to see, lots of really nice comments coming in. Thank you for that comment there, and from Julia as well, all the way in Italy. And if anyone's got any more questions, give a last shout out. But I think that's probably a really nice opportunity to start bringing it to a close. Abby, any further thoughts before we say goodbye to everybody?
Oh, no, I just think that thank you for having me. And as I love playing with ThingLink, and I think for anyone who's using this, especially in education, it's so much fun. It's so much more entertaining, but it's also fun to make, and actually thinking about different ways that you can present the stuff that you've always been presenting. It can actually make it a lot, much easier, and actually for updates and things, rather than just constantly having to upgrade this file and that file. If it's all in one place, it's so much more simple.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to put the link in the chat right now for you to sign up for the beta version. And because you signed up for this webinar, we've got your email. And what we're going to do is we're going to email everybody afterwards with a link to the recording. We're also going to put a link to those slides that Abby showed you and my slides. And we'll also have a link to that sign up form as well. So thank you, Julia. That's a lovely and nice way to end our time. And on behalf of the whole ThingLink team, can I just say a huge thank you to Abby for all of your presentations and the work that you do with us, and a huge thank you to everyone who's been using ThingLink and watching today. And yes, do keep in touch with us, share your ideas, join in our social media kind of communities as well. We've got our Facebook group, and that's ThingLink Education on Facebook and Twitter at ThingLink_edu. And I think I should probably bring that to a close and say thank you again so much, everybody. Take care. At least we know you haven't got too long a journeys home, hopefully. But have a lovely evening, everyone. Take care. Thanks,
everyone. Bye.
Bye.